session. Our executive session was to consider candidates for an acting city manager's position. At this time, the floor is open for discussion.
I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Tyronda Henderson as acting city manager until we can find a full-time employee.
I'll second it.
So we have a motion and a second to nominate Tyronda Henderson, our finance director, as acting city manager until further notice or until a permanent city manager is hired. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Brewer,
Yes.
Tool,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hollebush,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes. And our acting city manager is Tyronda Henderson. Ms. Henderson, if you could come forward, you could take your place at the city manager seat without a nameplate. That means we can call you anything tonight.
You prefer,
I'm assuming that's a yes.
Moving right along, we'll move into our consent agenda. Tonight, we have one item on our consent agenda, which is approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on March 20th. What would be the desire of the consent agenda?
Motion.
Second.
So a motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And the consent agenda passes. So we're moving right along to our regular agenda tonight, which is to adopt item number 6, which is to adopt a resolution expressing the willingness of the city of Texarkana, Arkansas to utilize the state aid street monies for the Euclid Street Overlay Project. Tyler Richards.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. So this state aid grant is something we apply for. It ends up being about every 3 or 4 years or so. The state kind of picks the cities in a revolving door as the monies are available. But we applied for Euclid because this state aid project is very specific on what work they will do. A lot of our roads have bad base issues. You will see most of the road rehab projects that we do, a lot of seam stabilization, a lot of base repair. But for this project, they'll only do milling overs. They won't go in and do any base work. If you want to do base work, you have to pay for that yourself. So Euclid was at the top of the list for streets that just needed a mill overlay. So that's why we're getting Euclid. Our match is 10%, but the maximum amount that they'll put
up is 300,000, and the estimate's for 375,000. So we're just responsible for everything over that 300. We came in about 200,000 under on this first round of ARPA streets. So we're planning on using that money to for our 75,000. Do y'all have any questions?
That does go from South State Line to 71.
Correct. Yes, sir.
I have a question on another note. As far as the overlay for county, the east side of Walmart, will that be coming up anytime soon?
Yes. Last meeting, we approved the engineering contract for that.
Okay.
So engineers are getting to work on that. I'm not sure how far out they are, but I told them I would really like to bid that thing out in August, because I do not want to get into winter and try to get that job done. They're extremely difficult to get done when you start in October, November. So I'm trying to get it completed before then.
All right, thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, we'd have the city attorney read the resolution.
State Aid City Street Program Project Resolution. A resolution expressing the willingness of the city of Texarkana to utilize state aid street monies for the following city project: Texarkana Euclid Street Overlay. Whereas the city of Texarkana understands that state aid street program funds are available for certain city projects at the following participating ratios: reconstruction, resurfacing, construction of city projects, preliminary engineering, state aid percentage 100, city 0, right-of-way, state aid percentage 0, city percentage 100, utilities, state aid percentage 0, city percentage 100, construction, state aid percentage 90, city 10, Construction engineering, 100% state aid, 0% city. City projects programmed but not let to contract. All phases, state aid percentage 0, city percentage 100%. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, that Section 1, the city will participate in accordance with its designated responsibilities in this project. Section 2, the acting city manager or his or her designee is hereby authorized to execute all appropriate agreements and contracts necessary to expedite the construction of the city project. Section 3, the city agrees upon completion of the project to assume the maintenance of the right-of-way by city forces and/or others, including utilities and individuals, in accordance with the prevailing Arkansas Department of Transportation regulations. Section 4, the city pledges its full support and hereby authorizes the Arkansas Department of Transportation to initiate action to implement this project. Passed and approved this third day of April 2023.
The city attorney's read the resolution. What would be the desire of the board?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
So a motion and a second to adopt. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hollabush,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes. And the resolution passes. Moving on to item number 7, is adopt a resolution to accept the 2022 audit engagement letter prepared by the accounting firm Forvis LLP. Our acting city manager, Tyronda Henderson.
Good afternoon, Mayor Brown, Board of Directors. This item is to approve a letter of engagement with the firm Forvis LLP to conduct the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, and the Bi-State Justice Center's 2022 annual audit in preparation of the annual comprehensive financial report. They are experienced in conducting governmental audits and are also used by other cities within the state of Arkansas, as well as other cities throughout the United States. The fee for their services is $110,000 for audits of the financial statements for the city and by state, with additional fees of $5,500 for one major program audited under uniform guidance and $3,000 to $5,000 for testing the implementation of GASB 87. The city manager and finance director recommend approving a one-year letter of engagement. The one-year engagement is a 6.3% increase from 2021 to 2022. Are there any questions?
Tyron, I have a question. That one-year engagement, is that, for that audit, is there a one-time audit within that 1 year, or that's a follow-up, or?
It's just our regular annual audit.
Okay.
Yes.
And when does it actually happen?
They are scheduled to be on site the week of May 1st and the week of May 8th.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Director Harris.
I don't have a question. I guess y'all know, if y'all don't remember, I normally don't vote for an audit person or company because the state would do this per se for free, not costing the city anything. And I'm going to continue my thing of not voting for the audit. I may eventually vote for the audit itself, but the process of paying someone to do the audit, and because I know that the county, they use the state too, and it's not costing the county nothing. And also the Texarkana, Arkansas School District use the state for this audit. Now, they may say, well, we on a different type of basis, cash basis, they don't do that. Or audit is an audit. I don't care who does it or what. And I just can't see myself up here spending taxpayer money on something that we basically can get for free, you know. And I know, and I'm gonna continue on voting no on picking an audit, which I think I've been doing maybe for the last 5 or maybe 8 years. And but for us, when they do the audit, and that's not my question. It's not the audit itself, you know. I'm thinking that the city is not doing anything wrong, and that ain't the reason why I'm voting for it. It's just the idea of, I figured that I'm just wasting the taxpayer $110,000 that we can use elsewhere. You know, I just drive around my neighborhood, my ward, I can really see the use of that $110,000. So, and that's the reason why I'm not gonna vote for this, and that's the reason why I have not voted for this in the past. That's it.
Any other discussion?
Well, along those same line of questioning, why have we looked at doing what's offered by, what's the benefits going to Forbes or anybody else?
Oh, yes, sir. So the audit that is provided by the state of Arkansas, it is what's considered a cash-based audit. They do not work, they simply provide it in the forms of when you receive the money. And besides that, there is a backlog on when they can actually get to our log audit. Last time I looked at it, it was going to be a little bit before they can get to it. As well as everything that we do within our audit, it affects our ratings and our bond ratings, our ability to issue debt. It affects things such as when people come in, they want to see the financial status of the city. What we offer here is not just a review of our financial statements that you receive monthly. So what they provide is very similar to what you receive monthly. What we have is a comprehensive annual financial report. This gives you everything that is attached to the city, from all of our pension funds to any of our debt funds, as well as our joint ventures such as Texarkana Water Utilities, T-Line, the airport, library. All of those things are included in our audit, which can make our audit a little bit difficult because we do have so many joint ventures, as well as by state. There's not anything else like by state around. So even if we were to go with the state, we would still have to outsource our audit for by state and our joint ventures, our debt service, and all of those things that are included in that report.
Any idea what something like that would cost?
So we have looked at splitting it up before, and I can tell you it costs just as much to divide it up and have the state do one part of it and someone else come in to do the other parts as it is to just have it all done by one entity.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir. We have looked at that before, and I can tell you that it was very difficult to find another accounting firm that would simply do the audit of just by state.
Any other questions? If not, we would have the city attorney read the resolution.
Thank you.
Whereas the firm Forvis LLP has submitted a letter of engagement to conduct annual audits for the city of Texarkana, Arkansas, and the Bi-State Justice Center for 2022, and whereas Forvis LLP has experience with conducting such audits and similar governmental audits, including audits for other cities within the state of Arkansas and throughout the United States, and whereas the acting city manager and finance director recommend approving a one-year engagement with a 6.2 increase from 2022 for $110,000, $5,500 for the anticipated one major program audited under uniform guidance, and $3,000 to $5,000 for testing the implementation of GASB 87, depending on the time expended. And whereas the acting city manager and staff recommend board approval, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, that the acting city manager is authorized and directed to enter into a letter of engagement with Forvis LLP in an amount not to exceed $120,500, pass and approve this third day of April 2023.
City attorney's read the resolution. What would be the desire of the board?
Motion to adopt.
So have a motion and a second to adopt. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
No.
Olivish,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes, and the resolution passes. Moving right along to item number 8, to adopt a resolution authorizing the acting city manager to enter into a contract with Contact Contractors for the rehab of building number 3 at the Animal Care and Adoption Center. Ms. Lenore T.
Good evening, Mayor and board members. We're here tonight to enter into a contract with Contact to redo the rehabilitation on the third building at the shelter. We did include this in our bid, and we bidded it, the bid came in at, we budgeted $125,000, and we got a bid to come in at $105,000, so we're under budget there. This is going to be to remove the existing roof, install standing beam metal roof, seam metal roof, install gutters and downspouts repair building column bases, remove and replace ceiling grid and in tiles.
Anyone have any questions for Ms. Teague?
I know in the past that this has been one of the buildings that always floods when we get a significant amount of rain. Is there anything that's have we still had problems with that in this
Never,
building?
never had any flooding whatsoever. The only flooding we had is when the old pipe busted when we had the last freeze.
Okay.
I've never known it to flood from the creek. I believe Loki had a sewer problem one time or something.
Maybe
like
that's
that.
what it was.
I believe that was all that was.
Okay, so that's not an issue.
No, no.
She cleaned out all that sewer when you first came in, didn't you? Yeah.
Bless your heart.
Any other questions? I just have a couple of comments, Lenore, as far as, I understand the need because of the basis of, one of the first things that we tackled when I became mayor too was building the new animal shelter and the old one. What kind of condition is this building? I know that you start with the roof and certainly the ceilings and stuff like that, but, to me, I'm not a big, strong advocate of just keeping throwing money after bad. And we have had some preliminary discussions a while back about tearing this down and maybe trying to look at other resources and maybe building something else. What type of condition will this $100,000 get in this? What type of renovations will this do for this building outside of getting a new roof? What is it? What are you dealing with on the inside now? Is this going to be a money trap? Something that we're going to continue to have to put money in for the kennel? I'm assuming we're still housing pets in there.
Yes.
There's a reason that we have to have it, and it's hard to get rid of it because then we wouldn't have anywhere to have our pets. So I just wanted to kind of get some idea from you as to, are we continuing to going to have to throw money at this to get this up to par to get livable?
Okay, so I would say no. As Stephen asked about the flooding, the only water that comes in when it rains is through the turbines. That's the only water that comes in the building. As far as repairing the beams, I think through the years of chemical, I think that's rotted it out and kind of rusted it. And so when they go in and they sandblast and they rebuild the structure from the bottom up, we're not going to have any problem. I think it's a sound building. The cost of replacing kennels would be way more than $125,000. So the need for those kennels is huge, especially because that's where we keep the aggressive dogs. They're safer there. We're safer there because we're able to separate the dog from the kennel techs and ourselves.
Lenore, how many animals will that building hold?
In the bottom, it will hold 60, to
Yeah, you
include
gotta
2
have
cat
that,
rooms.
Yeah, that's a lot to take away right there.
Yeah. Yes, that would be horrible. Horrible.
Any other questions?
Question.
Yes.
Tyler, while we're discussing rehab and discussing about putting in a roof and all that, is there any area to add some square footage while we're tackling the roof for more space? Or,
To add square footage, is that what you
yeah,
said?
is there any more room to?
There's one little notch out that we could possibly block in. You'd be talking about paying for some additional kennels then,
Yeah.
which are very expensive. But there is another space that's probably, what is that, probably 15 by 15?
What
something
part is
like
that?
The outside portion that's under roof?
Oh, yes, where the canopy is.
Yeah, probably 15 by 15, 20 by 20, something like that, so 300, 400 square foot that could potentially be blocked in, which would be fairly simple. To block that in, you'd probably be looking at $15,000, $20,000, somewhere in that range.
Before
But then the
kennels.
kennels will be a lot more than that.
Yeah, we're not discussing that right now. We're just discussing this resolution.
That's just for the building, that's not for the kennels?
That's just
Just
the
be-
block.
Just the-
boxing in
just
that
the
end.
body.
Yeah.
I just thought, you want to just kind of look at some of the future we might need to look at.
Any other discussion?
If that was the case, Tyler, we would have to go back and get a rebid from the roofing people are the structural people as well? And what would you propose, just to what Director Brewer brought up? Would you be proposing that you would be doing that work for the additional space?
That's not up to me. That would be up to Lenore if she wanted that.
So we're throwing
that-
numbers around out here that we don't really know. right?
Yeah, that's just a ballpark off the top of my head.
So we're just voting on this resolution for the hundred and some $1,000 to do the rehab of that.
Lenore, without adding the extra 400 square foot, I mean, you're fine if that's not added, correct? If it's just as is.
Yes, at the time. However, with the animals that are coming in daily, it's, it would be nice to have it. However, I don't want to make that possible because I don't want us to have to consume all these animals. We're at overcapacity now.
That would be easily done down the road. It doesn't need to be part of this project. If
Well,
she-
technically,
We're
it
gonna
can't
add
be
that,
part
yeah.
of this. You have a resolution on the table to pay this that we already have appropriated, so we would have to discuss funding, where the money was coming from, and all that process. So, any other discussion on this particular resolution for the roof repair? If not, I would instruct the city attorney to read the resolution.
Whereas after advertisement, a low bid in the amount of $105,882.77 was submitted by Contech Contractors Incorporated for the rehabilitation of Building 3 at the Animal Care and Adoption Center. And whereas the funds for such project were budgeted at $125,000 and are available, and whereas the acting city manager and staff recommend board approval, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, that the acting city manager is authorized to enter into a contract with Contech Contractors Incorporated for the purposes and in the amount set forth above, passed and approved this third day of April 2023.
City attorney's read the resolution. What would be the desire of the board?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
So have a motion and a second to adopt. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hollowbush,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes. Resolution passes. Moving on to item number 9, to adopt an ordinance to rename a section of Preston Street east of Interstate 49 to McGee Drive. Ms. Beck.
I'm not sure whether this was tabled or not, or was it just,
It wasn't tabled. It was, there was the other one that was tabled.
okay, I'm sorry. There's, where's, whoops, here it is. Oh, here's Cooper Tire Road and I-49. This is a fire station here. This used to be the Square Dance Club. It's a little church building. There's one house here and one house across the way near the Highland Hills Drive. So the only three buildings that are addressed off from this strip of road that's currently Preston are those three structures. Preston winds around into McGee Road, but McGee doesn't go through to Cooper Tire. And as Chief Fletcher had mentioned earlier, for emergency services, they would prefer not to have this remain as Preston Street. And Director Hollowbush actually brought this to the Planning Commission for this renaming. He could probably speak more to the petition, but it did meet the requirements for the majority of the property owners to agree to it. We notified 17 property owners, that even the ones that don't have any addresses on the street, because they might build something in the future, might have an interest in that. And we didn't get any responses from those property owners. But I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Beck?
Did anyone object that is living on the property on that street now?
From what I understand, the person that lives here did not want to sign the petition, but they didn't object, I mean, they weren't going to oppose it, is?
He didn't, that is correct. He didn't sign the petition because he didn't want the street renamed, but he's okay with it. I've had conversations with him since. He's not a huge fan of it, but he's okay with the street renaming.
Any other questions? I'll remind the board, this is an ordinance. To pass tonight, it would need to be read 3 times. What would be the desire of the board to have it read on its first reading?
First reading, abbreviated form?
Second.
Let's have a motion and a second to have it read on its first reading in abbreviated form. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hollebush,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
An ordinance renaming a section of Preston Street east of Interstate 49 to McGee Drive and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its first reading. What would be the desire to have it read on its second reading tonight?
Mayor, I move that we suspend the rules and place the ordinance on the second reading.
So have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to have it read on its second reading. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hollebush,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
An ordinance renaming a section of Preston Street east of Interstate 49 to McGee Drive and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its second reading. What would be the desire to have it read on its third and final reading tonight?
Third and final reading, abbreviated form, please.
Second.
Let's have a motion and a second to have it read on its third reading. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hollebush,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
An ordinance renaming a section of Preston Street east of Interstate 49 to McGee Drive and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its third and final reading. What would be the desire of the board to adopt?
Motion to adopt?
Second.
So have a motion and a second to adopt. Prior to the board voting to adopt this particular ordinance, is there anyone here that wishes to speak for or against? Seeing and hearing none, could you call the roll?
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hollebush,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes, and the ordinance is adopted. Moving right along to item number 10, which is to adopt an ordinance to rezone a tract of land located at 5301 Sanderson Lane in Ward 6 from C3 open display commercial zoning to R4 medium density residential in order to build a single-family dwelling. Ms. Beck.
Just for reference, for location, this is I-30, and Sanderson Lane comes up and ends into 54th Street. So Four States Fair is further to the east in Four States Fair Parkway. This is a Scott Tractor Supply to the north, and these are single-family residential homes. Most of them have been there for a long time. And the tract of land that's being looked at tonight is part of a family land that has been there for, passed down, and this zoning was imposed in 1988, when the comprehensive plan went back a distance from major thoroughfares and zoned them commercial for the most part. They didn't zone this commercial because it was obvious that this was all residential, but when they had vacant property or commercial, they pretty much, I think, recommended that the adjacent property would match up with that. There is adequate, there's like a 16-inch sewer line, I think, in Sanderson, or 12 or 16, 8-inch sewer, and 12-inch water, excuse me. This tract of land, we're recommending the R4. It's adjacent to R2, but R4 is recommended as a buffer zone because you could actually have just any of the residential land uses there. And if at some point they decided to do something like apartments or develop it further, they would have that option on that 1.5 acres. So it's kind of a buffer zone. We didn't have any opposition from that at the Planning Commission meeting. There is on March 14th, and the commissioners approved it 6-0 with one person absent. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Beck? I know that the B family is here. Is there any other discussion? I remind the board, this is an ordinance to pass tonight. It would have to be read 3 times. What would be the desire of the board to have it read on its first reading?
First reading, abbreviated form, please.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to have it read on its first reading in abbreviated form. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hollowbush,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance number K-286 as amended and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its first reading. What would be the desire to have it read on its second reading tonight?
Second reading, abbreviated form.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to have it read on its second reading. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
No.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hollowbush,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance number K-286 as amended and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its second reading. What would be the desire of the board to have it read on its third and final reading tonight?
Third reading, abbreviated form.
Second.
So have a motion and a second to have it read on its third and final reading, abbreviated form. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
No.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Yes.
Hollowbush, Brown,
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance number K-286 as amended and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its third and final reading. What would be the desire of the board to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Just have a motion and a second to adopt. Prior to the board voting to adopt this particular ordinance, is there anyone here wishing to speak for or against? Seeing and hearing none, could you call the roll?
Well, I actually got
What?
one more
Yes.
question. It's being changed to commercial?
R4.
It's being changed from to,
From a commercial.
so they can build a single-family dwelling.
Oh, okay.
Any other discussion?
Is this not the one we had somebody going to speak in opposition?
No, they're
No,
speaking
they
for
were,
it.
that's their family.
House on that family property. Correct, Steve?
So we have a motion and a second to adopt. No opposition from this audience. Could you call the roll, please?
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hollowbush,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes, and the ordinance is adopted. Moving right along to item number 11, which is to adopt an ordinance granting the request for a prerequisite municipal approval of a private club application for 2415 Arkansas Boulevard, Pelican Fish and Seafood Incorporated. Jake Potter.
Are you sure we got the right one up there, Mayor?
I do.
Okay.
I can tell them apart.
Now that he's here.
I used to have trouble with it.
Double looking here.
That's right.
Conflict of interest, isn't it?
You're still better looking than me.
Oh,
I want that noted. Clerk?
Jake, go ahead.
yes, so this is beer and wine has already been applied for. We're merely waiting for the approval. And this is a private club application to sell liquor at this 2415 Arkansas Boulevard. It was the old Redwoods.
Brangus Feed.
Brangus, Cash's,
Little Bees.
Little Bees, there you go. Yeah, and we're just asking for this prerequisite approval so that we can go to ABC and get their approval. And it's going to be like the title says, it's a fish and seafood restaurant.
Do you know when they plan on opening?
When do you plan on opening?
ASAP. Well, they'll probably open without liquor to begin with. But that should follow shortly thereafter. I mean, it's a matter of weeks.
So renovations have already started?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's already painted.
Yep.
Any other questions for Mr. Pot? Yes,
I'm still trying to figure out where it's located.
it's right there down from, right next to the Dollar General. Before you get to the red light and the Dapper and the Mountain Grove Baptist Church, right there on the left.
Oh, gotcha.
Used to be the state. Mr. Potter, you're asking for an emergency clause on this. Is that just to expedite the process?
Correct. So that the
Waive the
ordinance
30-day
would go
waiting-
through
Waive the
immediately.
30-day waiting period. Any other discussion? Okay, I remind the board, this is an ordinance to pass tonight. It may need to be read 3 times. What would be the desire of the board to have it read on its first reading?
First reading abbreviated form.
Second.
So a motion and second to have it read on its first reading in abbreviated form. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hollowbush,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
An ordinance granting the request for prerequisite municipal approval by a private club application by Danny Ray McVeigh as applicant on behalf of Pelican Fish and Seafood Incorporated, declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its first reading. What would be the desire of the board to have it read on its second reading?
Second reading abbreviated form.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to have it read on its second reading, abbreviated form. Any other discussion? Call the roll.
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hollowbush,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
An ordinance granting the request for prerequisite municipal approval by a private club application by Danny Ray McVeigh as applicant on behalf of Pelican Fish and Seafood Incorporated, declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its second reading. What would be the desire to have it read on its third and final reading?
Third and final reading, abbreviated form, please.
Second.
Motion and a second to have it read on its third reading. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hollowbush,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
An ordinance granting the request for prerequisite municipal approval by a private club application by Danny Ray McVeigh as applicant on behalf of Pelican Fish and Seafood Incorporated, declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its third and final reading. What would be the desire of the board to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to adopt. Any other discussion? Prior to the board voting to adopt, is there anyone here that wishes to speak for or against this particular ordinance? Seeing and hearing none, could you call the roll?
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hollowbush,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes, and the ordinance is adopted. They've also requested an emergency clause. What would be the desire of the board to attach?
Motion to attach.
Second.
So motion and a second to attach an emergency clause. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hollowbush,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes, emergency clause is attached. You're
Thank you
done.
very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mrs. Thank you, guys.
Thank y'all for opening a business on the Arkansas side.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
As pointed out by Director Harris, we inadvertently left off Board of Directors commentary. We can do that now prior to adjourning into our last executive session for the night if the board doesn't have any objections to it. Is there anyone that wishes to address the board? Yes.
I guess I need to ask, are we in the process, or how far is the grant writer, for being hired?
So she has already been hired. She is going into her second month here. My plan was for her to spend her first 3 months getting used to the city grants, the application process, so that she's aware of how all of that operates. And then starting her 4th month, that's when she will start her grant writing process and actually getting with department heads on writing those grants.
Well, the reason why I asked that is that, I guess last week, our last board meeting, I said I'll be meeting with some officials about, railroad. And apparently I did meet with the chief guy, Amit Bowles in Washington DC last week about, railroads. And I was telling him about the issue we have here in Texas County with, Union Pacific about the railroads here, and I also was asked, could the city maybe apply for, the reason why I asked about the grant, because there's bukus of money out there to help with grant, with the issue with the railroads now also, that, some people been asking me about putting a light, or having a light to let them know at the four-way stop sign at Preston and Pinehurst, and also Silver Street there, and
Like a
then-
flashing light to
Yes.
signify a train's
It's
on the
blocking
track.
road. Yes, that's blocking the road there. And also that, besides, they've been staying on the train, 2 and 3, sometimes from Friday and sometimes to Sunday, which, when talking to the chief administration, I guess I pronounced his name right, AMIT, then BOSE. I hope I pronounced his name right. But Union Pacific should be getting to me, because the way I done it, they said they gonna contact Union Pacific in my behalf, then Union Pacific was gonna contact me. And I figured by them doing that, probably get a little more better movement, a little more better, response from Union Pacific. But, I guess I need to send you or the lady in regards to some information about potential grant and potential thing, because I'm still getting bukus of things about grant. And we have somebody in Lupin, DC, that would help the city. Once the grant is written, what he'll do, he'll go over the grant and help supply the data and help enhance our grant, and this is free of charge. And this just because I'm a member of SSCI, Southern City Initiative thing, by me joining that, the city get access to a free grant writing. Well, he done write grant for us, but what he does, he would help us go over the existing grant and make sure we got the right data, and he would research our grant and make sure our grant will be up to par before it's being submitted. And then my last question, or my last comment is that pretty soon there will be another housing grant will be coming down the pipeline, and it's for people who got housing, person of 62 years or older, and it would help them stay in their houses. Now, that should be coming down the pipeline, and they would help research and help us with that grant process. So that's the reason why I asked that. And so I will forward you or the person in about this information before that, and they normally let us know at least 2 or 3 months ahead of time. So I think that, and this, like I said, this stuff is free. So with it being free, I don't see why we shouldn't even try to get this, because, last time when I brought this up, it was just sad to see that we didn't put in that grant, and there was like almost $1.6 million sitting on the table. That's not saying we wouldn't have got it, but if you don't put it in, we know we ain't gonna get it. So, and that's basically it.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate that. Any other comments from board members?
I'll just add one quick thing. We are getting a new restaurant on East Street as well, in the old Charcoal Broiler Building. It's a Mexican restaurant. It's supposed to open up in the next 30 days.
May I do have one thing?
Yes.
Not to go into too deep a detail with Harris has already communicated, but Congress has provided, the access of federal funds, for the Infrastructure Investment Act, Jobs Act, American Rescue Plan Act, and CHIPS and Science Act, so and the Inflation Reduction Act. Also, the support of the Railway Safety Act is coming up as well. So there is opportunities so you should contact your local representatives. You have Cotton, Boozman, and Westerman. So I encourage you to contact your representatives.
Any other discussion? If not, we will recess our meeting at this time and enter into an executive session to consider a couple of appointments or reappointments to the Civil Service Commission, and to consider our current applications for our vacant city manager's opening.